Welcome back to M6 to New South Wales, the show that will dive deep into the heart of one of sport's greatest contests. We're talking, of course, about the Ashes. This is arguably the most storied and intense rivalry in the world, fought for decades between England and Australia, played over 5 grueling test matches. The battle for the Ashes is the supreme test of skill, endurance, and national pride. It's more than just a game. It represents a century and a half of sporting drama. Heroic performances such as amazing Adelaide 2006 and unforgettable moments like Headingley 2019 cement its status as the absolute cornerstone of the international cricket calendar, and we are mere hours away from the first ball. So joining me today are our usual hosts, Josh, Steve, and myself, Isaac, and making his debut today is Richard. Fellas, I would absolutely love to ask how we all are, but there is so much to talk about, and I want to dive straight into it because we're starting an Ashes series and Australia are missing their captain. So, Josh, I want to start with you. How do you think it will affect the Aussies, and just how big of a miss is Pat Cummins? Because this isn't the only Australia selection headache as well.
Yeah, g'day boys. Pat Cummins out. It's obviously it's been a big news story for the last few weeks, and I think it's a massive out for Australia. He's top 3 fast bowlers in the world. Any side that's missing your best fast bowler is gonna struggle. So it'll be interesting to see how we go. But I think the guys coming in, Scotty Boland has an incredible record, and the new kid Brendan Doggett. I think it just feels good to say Doggett, the dog. I think he'll go really well.
It's. Do you know what though? I get what you're saying, and they've got a lot of depth in the bowling department. But come on, Josh, it must sting a little bit with your captain out.
Oh, big time. Big time. I think, we're obviously a much better side when he's playing. It's not just his bowling, it's his batting too. Our tail's all of a sudden a lot longer. He's scored a lot of clutch runs for us, as you guys would know in Ashes tests. And, I think back to the first test of the last series in 23, putting on 50 odd with Nathan Lyon to win us a test match there. So, yeah, it definitely we'll miss his captaincy and his batting. And, obviously, I'd say he's in the top 3 fast bowlers in the world too. So we'll miss his bowling, that's for sure.
I was
sure
looking
you'll miss his
earlier.
captaincy as much as what you think. I think you'll miss his bowling, definitely. But I think Smith is, in particular, playing against England, I think Smith would be a better captain, actually. I think he's a bit more off the cuff. Tactically, I think he's a bit better.
Yeah.
So I think his bowling,
definitely,
he's a fantastic bowler. And as you say, he scores important runs. And he's done that against us, as you mentioned, then in 2023. But in terms of captaincy, I think you're a better team with Smith as captain, actually.
Yeah, I think Smith's probably a better captain. It's because he's pumped full of Ritalin and he doesn't stop. And so I think you're right there. But there's no way to sugarcoat it though. I think if England's going to win a test this summer, it better be this first one. Otherwise, I think if you don't win this one, you boys are going to struggle.
Oh, 100%. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah,
I think that's why we'll go all out this test with selection.
I think the good thing is with Australia, like obviously they're losing Pat Cummins, who obviously is their captain, been captain for many years now. But it's kind of a bit of a delight for you that the fact that your captain who's stepping in was already an Australian captain, and by all intents and purposes, other than factors that we won't go into here, would probably still be the captain if all things considered.
Yeah.
So it's good that it's quite an easy fit for him to just like slot in and take back the role that you're not really losing on leadership. As Richard says, he thinks it's going to be a little bit better for Australia to captain against England, and in somewhat I kind of agree really.
No, definitely.
My question is, so I was actually looking because obviously it's not just Cummins that you've lost. Obviously, you've lost Hazelwood as well. And I do think, personally, when I've watched over the last few years, Hazelwood is probably the bowler I don't like us facing as much.
Well, Joe Root definitely doesn't. You've got Joe Root 10 times. 10 times.
Both of them. Yeah, both of them, Cummins and Hazelwood, are a good matchup for Joe Root. So that's probably the most concerning thing is the bowlers that we've got in there now. Whilst they'll do a job, none of them have been particularly good to Joe Root. Obviously, Boland and Doggett a bit untested against him, but Stark's not a good matchup for Joe Root. And
No.
missing Hazelwood and Cummins, they've both had his number a few times. So I think
I think
again,
Boland is pretty much of a straight swap for Hazelwood, because the thing with Hazelwood is just the same spot over and over again, and he's going to test the batsman's patience. And to be honest, I personally think that's what Boland does to a better degree as well than Hazelwood sometimes. So the Hazelwood, I don't think you'll miss too much because Boland can do that job. It's the Cummins one maybe a bit worse because you can say all you want that he's a good player, Doggett, but Ashes is different. Ashes cricket is different.
It's the unknown for England as well, though. How many of these England batsmen will have faced Doggett ever?
Yeah, I get that, but it plays funny things when you look at Rory Burns last time we were down under. Like,
How long have we been on for? About 3 minutes, and we've already spoken about Rory Burns.
I don't stop speaking about Rory
that's-
Burns and me. Don't worry about that. I've got a full concept
A
of them.
leg stump half volley, unbelievable.
But that's the funny thing with Ashes, though, isn't it? It brings out you could be the best. What is he? I think he's running at 14.69 is with wickets at the moment average. Like, that doesn't mean much when you've never played Ashes cricket, and he could have played at the highest point in Sheffield Shield cricket, but it's nothing to what Perth will be like later on today, is it?
Who will open the bowling, Josh? Will it be Doggett or will it be Boland?
I'd personally, I'd open with Doggett. I think Scott Boland's the best old ball bowler in the world. And Doggett's a new ball bowler. He does swing the ball, but he also nibbles it around off the seam. So I think, and everyone in Australia now is bowling that wobble seam sort of variation as well. So I think you'll see a lot of swing with him with the new ball in the first few overs, and then he'll go back to that wobble seam. But I'd be opening with Stark and then Doggett.
I think what's
How
most
close
interesting
do you
about.
think the others?
Oh, go on,
Sorry,
Steve. Go on. No, you first. Go on, Steve.
So, how close do you think Nessa was? Do you think, Josh? Because he was the other one in the mix, wasn't he?
Yeah, he would have been really close, and I think obviously he's more of a bowling all rounder. Like he averages somewhere in the mid-20s with the bat in first class cricket, so he can hold a stick as well. But he would have been close. But I think given we know what the wicket's probably going to do, it's going to be fast, it's going to be bouncy. They probably wanted someone with a yard of pace. Neza, he's not rapid, but he moves the ball around. So probably not the conditions for him, to be honest, mate. But what a terrific cricketer, though. Very unlucky to miss out.
It seems close. Like I say, I've been reading up on it, and it come down to them two rather than because the other person I had in mind, and especially with the selection, and I'm going to call it a headache that you guys have had, is you probably could have easily kept Bo Webster in as more of a bowler than an all-rounder, so that you had both Green and Bo Webster, but obviously they've gone this way, haven't they?
Yeah,
Well, Webster is a legitimate all-rounder, though, isn't he?
He is.
Because he can bat, and he batted quite well in the West Indies, and he's also got bucket hands, a bit like Cam Green has. So
I
he's
thought
a
he was one of the
legitimate
better
all-rounder.
batsmen in West Indies, wasn't he? Though, like I don't know how much you saw of it, but I watched
Him and
quite
Cam
a bit
Green,
of it.
you could argue, with probably the two best batters, I'd say.
Yeah.
Yeah, definitely. I think, if you've got a series in the West Indies where not a single 100 was scored, and this was sort of a lot of the commentary, we had over here was, 40 to 50 runs is probably equivalent to 100 anywhere else on those shit tips.
Yeah, they were awful, weren't they? Terrible.
Yeah, terrible pitches. But, so I think, if you went with Bo Webster, it probably just messes up the balance of the side. Like who misses out? Are you taking out a spin bowler? Are you taking out Nathan Lyon? Are you taking out one of the other quicks? Because that's the other thing is as well with Perth. We know that it can get really hot and difficult to bowl over there. You need a premier spinner, because if you were to bowl Travis Head or Steve Smith, guys who in their own right are good bowlers, England go after them, and then who are you going to put on? You can't
Yeah.
just keep bowling your quicks in 35-degree heat. Like it's different to the UK, where if you've got a seam friendly pitch, you still need a spinner, because you need someone to hold up an end and rotate your quick so you're not gassing them out. But
Which is what. Sorry to interrupt. That's what Lyon's done for years and years. He's held up an end, and
absolutely,
he's obviously took important wickets as well.
yeah,
Whereas
yeah,
you could argue England have got a lad who will take important wickets, but he doesn't hold up an end at all.
yeah.
I was going to ask about Lyon. Was there ever a chance that Lyon wouldn't play this test or not?
Do you know, I'm really glad you brought that up, because the guy I've been reading, he's fuming that Lyon's been picked.
Which is crazy, by the way.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So what is it
I
over
don't see
there,
how you
Josh? Like,
can't.
was it real?
I don't see how you can't pick him. Like I said, cricket in Australia, particularly when it's hot, is so hard as a bowler. And if you've got three quicks and a spinner, your spinner is arguably your most important bowler. Just given the fact that as Chad has touched on, they've got to be able to hold up an end. And you look for years through Australian cricket. We've been really lucky. The last sort of 20 years we've had Shane Warne and Nathan Lyon. Nathan Lyon, 562 wickets, bowling as well as he's ever bowled, and you don't want to pick him. Like it doesn't make sense to me.
But going off what you said, obviously with the weather, I'm looking at Perth weather right now. Except for today, where it's supposed to peak about 28, the rest of the days are around the 20 to 23 mark. So is
Mhm.
is is it going to be that hot for what they're expecting? It's not going to be 30 degrees, 35 degrees. It's going to be 20, 24 after today.
Yeah, and it might not be, you getting those scorching sort of 35-degree days. It might not be any of that, but the difference is, and it's hard. It's hard to explain, but when you're bowling in England versus bowling in
Yeah.
Australia, it's very, very different. Just when you're bowling through the crease, like the ground, and I know this sounds silly, but the ground in Australia on our cricket grounds are so much harder. So it's a lot harder work for fast bowlers. Whereas in England, it's a little bit softer. It's a little bit easier on the joints and all that sort of thing, and you can charge in all day. And you see your fast bowlers do that, but how many times have we seen your fast bowlers come out here and really struggle to acclimatise to the conditions? You look at Jimmy Anderson early in his career; he really struggled out here with the conditions, and it wasn't just the weather. It was the pitches. It was how difficult it is to just keep coming in and charging in. And I think of the most successful fast bowlers you guys have had come over here. They've been the guys that are absolutely lion-hearted. Like I think of Mark Wood, Stuart Broad, those sorts of guys that just don't stop. They just charge in
Ollie
all day.
Robinson.
Oh, jeez. 10
He's a
overs in,
cracking
he wants to
spinner.
start bowling. Yeah.
Okay.
One thing that we've kind of touched on with this Australian team, sort of like talking about the selections and stuff, is you had mentioned before about how many people have like realistically faced like Doggett. The Australia team, like not to peek behind the curtain about what we were talking pre-pod, but the Australian team is at like a really weird moment right now. Whereas I've just looked at the squad and like the caps that they've got coming into the team, you've got Abbott, Doggett, and Weatherald on debut. Then you've got English on 3 caps and Webster on 7 caps, and that's a good chunk of the squad there. It's realistically like it is going to be a lot harder for all of them because
Yeah.
it's a changing team where
Yeah.
you've got like a lot of the old guard which we know are going to perform and can do it. Like for example, obviously your Steve Smiths, your Cummins, your Starks, your Lions, and stuff like that. But then like, are these guys just knowing what you know? Are these guys going to be like?
Mm.
Obviously, Australians are always mentally tough, but are they going to be up to Ashes tough? Like, is it going to be like
Well,
a massive
Scotty
surprise?
Boland was last time, wasn't he?
Yeah,
He
Scotty Boland was a
came and joined
revelation.
the
Yeah,
Ashes and had absolutely annihilated us.
Yeah, true. It just
I
Nisa
think the
did the
one
same as
person
well,
I'm
didn't he?
looking at.
Was that 2019?
Labuschagne
No,
did it.
sorry, 2021. Michael
Yeah,
Nisa had a field day against us in one test. I can't remember what it
Mm.
was.
It just feels like,
I can't
for example,
think it
Josh
was.
before we started was saying like Australia were in like a similar period about 10 or 15 years ago when all the old guard were retiring there, and Australia really struggled. I'm just thinking, is there a little bit of worry, Josh, that maybe that sort of thing could happen as early as now, or is it a case of like you're still feeling fairly confident for the for the boys that are still there, or like where are you at with that, like with such an inexperienced squad?
Yeah, it's an interesting point you raised, and I think what we'll see, or what I hope we see, I should say, is I think, you know, you look at the last series in 21, and we had Pat Cummins missed a game with COVID. Jai Richardson came in, if you remember him, and took Pfeiffer at Adelaide.
Yep.
So there's a hell of a lot of depth there, and like I said, these guys know how to play cricket in Australia as well. Your Doggets and your Weatheralds, they've played a shit ton of first class cricket. Neither of them are young. They're not young kids like Sam Constas, which I feel sorry for Sam Constas because he's a hell of a player and he's got a lot of talent and he was unlucky to miss out. But at the same time, Weatherald's coming in. He's 30 years old. He's played a lot of Shield cricket. He's got a good record in Shield cricket and he's perfectly equipped to take on Test cricket. He's 30 years old. He's as tough as an old leather boot, and I think I was joking around in the chat with you guys. He's probably the only bloke in Australia that could beat Ben Stokes in a fight. So I'm stoked we picked him.
I think you'd be
Um,
more concerned if it was in our conditions. If
Definitely,
they're used to playing in your conditions on these
yeah,
pitches with the Kookaburra ball, you'd be
yeah,
a little bit more concerned if arguably your two best bowlers that are missed out with injury, and then you've got a debutant, and then Scotty Boland coming in. That'd be
yeah.
more because you
It'd
can
be a
pick it home and
nightmare.
away. It's day and night, isn't it? It's
Yeah, it'd be a
so
nightmare if it
different
was
in
a
away
flat wicket
conditions.
in. Yeah, nightmare if it's a flat wicket in England and you're debuting a couple of like Weatherald and Doggett. But considering it's going to be a bowler friendly deck in Western Australia, I think it certainly. Obviously, I think we're still favourites. I'd say just. Um, but yeah, like I said, if you guys can't win the first test, you're probably in a bit of trouble for the series, and certainly your best chance. And I was talking to a friend of mine who was saying, it's kind of all the stars have to align for England to win this series, really. But so far, I mean, they are. So missing two of our best bowlers, and stars maybe starting to align. Who knows?
I
Well, the
kind of
same happened in 2005. Glenn McGrath tripping over
Yep.
that mystery ball in the outfield. I got the same, not particularly with Cummins missing out, but Hazelwood suddenly,
Mm.
going off during a game and then being ruled out was
Yep.
gave me the same feeling as McGrath really. So maybe the stars are aligning, but I think you are right. Generally speaking, I think we need to be spot on. We can't. And I know we're sort of going off on a tangent about the whole series, but we've got to. If we get a chance, that's in particular in Perth, we
Yep.
have to win that test match. If we don't win that test match, we're
I think
we're struggling. I think.
I think the Aussie selectors have probably gone right though. They could have picked people that they favoured rather than form.
Yep.
Because I definitely we were talking about it earlier, weren't we, Josh? Like it definitely feels like they've gone. Jake Weatherald is probably running the Sheffield Shield at the moment with his runs. Doggett,
Mm.
obviously, one of the best bowlers in the competition at the minute. So it definitely feels slightly less emotional picks than what I maybe would have hoped as an English fan. Maybe you'd have gone a little
Yeah.
bit more emotional and picked people that weren't in as much form.
No,
But
definitely.
we've got to win this Perth one, otherwise we're done.
Yeah, no, definitely. I think Jake Weatherald's been averaging 50 in the last couple of years in Shield cricket and been the leading run scorer as an opener. Which, for anyone that's been following Shield cricket in the last couple of years, it's been a really tough thing to do. Open the batting. I think opening batters across the Sheffield Shield for the last few years have averaged a tick above 30. So it sort of tells you how hard it's been open the batting out here with the new Kookaburra ball and the green wickets we've been getting. So Yeah, it's good to see them pick on form. A guy that's been averaging 50 and leading the runs at the top of the order. It's good.
Just one thing
But
I want to spin on its head as well. I've just obviously we've been talking about Australia's lineup being sort of like maybe an experience. Well, not an experience, but obviously they're all new to I suppose inexperienced actually with 3 debuts and combined 10 caps between Inglis and Webster. Just looking at the England squad actually, and we can maybe really start asking the same question about ourselves because we've got Bashir 19 caps, Potts with 10 caps, Tong with 6 caps, Atkinson's got 13, Cast 9, Archer's only got 15, Will Jacks has got 2. Jamie Smith 15, Bethel 4. I think you know what? Actually, just looking at that, we kind of need to start. Obviously, we've been saying that the stars have been aligning for us and everything, but we've got to ask ourselves the same question. All these inexperienced players that are coming in, going into Australian conditions. We've been saying that if it was the other way around, we'd be, you'd be a little bit worried. But where are we at with that on the England side?
Well, I think a lot of these players have been picked with a view to this series. Bashir being the obvious one, because he's so tall for an off spinner to get extra bounce. He's been playing for the last couple of years, ready for playing in Australia, and I thought it was quite interesting. I think it'd have been quite easy, or it would be quite easy to leave him out in some of these games. But I think that he's Stokes' man, and it's because he's tall and he gets that overspin and he can get the extra bounce. He's been picked and he's played over the last, as I say, couple of years, ready for this series. Jax was an interesting pick. Whether he plays a test match, I'm not sure. He may play. He would only play when Bashir's not playing to sort of stack out the batting lineup. Cars is a hit the pitch bowler. He will run in all day. I do like him, but he's relatively tall, but he will. He's not designed to, but he's been picked based on this series as well. So I think it's a little bit different for us, where you've got some players that haven't got a huge amount of caps, but they've been playing ready for this series. I think.
I think you summed it up really well, though, Richard.
Who you can't really rely on how many games they're actually going to play because of injuries and whatnot.
I think the biggest difference though between the inexperience of the two squads is that Australia was almost picked a month ago before the injuries, and you knew who was playing. Whereas, maybe except for the opener, whereas our team, there's not really been any surprises on who we've picked. Obviously, we haven't picked the 11 to start today, but in the actual squad, there's no real surprises that have, and they probably knew they were going, like Richard said, 18 months, 2 years ago. So I think that's the difference between the two squads at the moment, is that their inexperienced players probably weren't expecting it as much. Obviously, as a sportsman, you're always going to be ready, but our guys knew they were probably coming over here unless they got injured, and they're all here.
Yeah, I think Jax would be a bit of a. It's funny with Jax because he was a surprise when they announced the squad, but then thinking about it, it is quite a. It does make a lot of sense, especially if you're not going to pick a specialist spinner and you want to pack out the batting on a flat wicket.
Yeah.
Then he will bowl important overs for you, just so you're not getting overs and extra work into Root, who's obviously our most important player.
If anything, probably Jax would be able to hold up the end more than Bashir, though, wouldn't
he? Yeah, you're right. Yeah, absolutely.
And if that's what we were going for, then yeah. If that's what you were thinking with Bashir's slight weakness of not being able to hold up an end, it's probably, like you say, when you really think about it, it's not that much of a surprise that Jax is being picked when Josh is saying you want that spinner to hold that end up.
With that knowledge as well, Josh, obviously with everything that we've just spoke about there, obviously just going to go to you. Like, how do you feel? Like, obviously throwing the question on its head, obviously, because as I say, like we've kind of had like none of the names really like that England have picked, although however many tests they've played for us. I don't feel like any of them have been like, oh wow, what weird selection sort of thing. Obviously, no matter how inexperienced the squad may be, how does it feel on your end throwing it back on back to you?
Yeah, I think it's probably the best squad you could have picked. It's funny though. In the lead up, there was a lot of questions around the Aussie lineup and how uncertain it was, and who's going to play here. What's the score with the openers? Who's going to bat at three? Are our fast bowlers fit? But I feel like every problem Australia's got, England's got just as bad. I mean, if like I still think Zach Crawley's a problem for you guys at the top of the order. I think Duckett's a brilliant player. But I think Crawley's a problem. Ollie Pope or Jacob Bethel, who's going to bat at three? That's been a discussion point. And then again, your fast bowlers. Are they going to stay fit for the whole series? After Mark Wood and Jofra Archer, like the other guys you've picked, are they going to do a job? It all remains to be seen. I think like I said, though, I think you probably picked the best squad you could have. One player I really like in the squad is Josh Tongue. I think he's a brilliant cricketer. I really, really rate his bowling. But yeah, it'll be interesting. I think if Mark Wood can stay fit for the whole series, I'd tip him to be the leading wicket taker. I think you guys know how I feel about Mark Wood. I think he's one of the best cricketers in the world when he's on. And yeah, also I think a lot of it comes down to your 4 and your 5. If Joe Root and Harry Brook can score some runs for you guys, you'll be hard to beat.
I think it's about laying a platform for Root and Brook, isn't it? You don't want Root coming in at sort of 20 for 2.
Yeah.
You want him coming in at 100 for 2, which is basically why Duckett and Crawley play. I mean, Duckett picks himself, doesn't he? But
he does. Yeah.
There's been a question on him, but you mentioned Crawley's. He's averaging 30. He averages more in Australia than he does his sort of Test career average, and played well in Sydney last time. Last time we were over there, but I think that's what they want him in there, obviously, to score runs and lay a bit of a platform for our best players. The Pope one's a really interesting one for me. Looking back now, was his place ever under threat? Really, they're very loyal, aren't they? McCullum and Stokes to players. I think Bethel missed a trick with the Zimbabwe Test, not coming back from the IPL, and maybe they sort of made the minds up at that point that unless Pope was having a disastrous summer, which he didn't, because Bethel didn't come back from the IPL, and Pope scored, I don't know what he scored, a big 100 anyway against Zimbabwe. And for a while, I thought Bethel was actually going to play, but then looking back now, was he ever really in the reckoning, as I say, unless Pope had an absolute shocker of the summer, which he did, which he didn't really, to be honest.
There seems to be a lot
of
Pope discourse.
Always starts very, very well in series, scores big runs early doors, and then seems to fade. So maybe Bethel comes in a little bit later. But I think what threw the cat amongst the pigeons with Pope is they took the vice captaincy off him, didn't they, and gave it to Harry Brook. So then people are putting two and two together and probably getting it wrong.
Yeah,
do you know what though? Sometimes that can help. I think taking the vice captaincy could be the making of him, but I also think you're right in what you're saying about if Pope had, I'm not going to say a poor summer, but maybe hadn't have got the important hundreds he got. I know he had a bit of a spell in between the hundreds over the summer and Zimbabwe, but I think if Bethel have had a better summer and played better in the one days against New Zealand recently as well, I think that would have been more of a question. But it definitely feels like Pope is in form and Bethel's out of form, rather than them both.
Yeah, it looks as though Pope's. I was listening to Stick to Cricket on the way home from work today, and Michael Vaughan said he's been watching Ollie Pope in the nets, and he thinks he's made a technical change as well. Not looking quite as erratic. But I mean, going off on a tangent about Bethel, I think the way they've managed him this summer has been absolutely terrible. I think he needed to play. He's carrying the drinks, and being around the team. He's not benefiting. How old is he? 20, 21, 22?
I think so.
Just needs to play cricket, doesn't he?
Yeah, play cricket.
He's 22,
own your
4
skills.
caps.
Carrying the drinks and sat in the changing room doing a crossword or Sudoku isn't really going to bring him on, is it? And then they threw him into the last test against India, and he looked like a rabbit in the headlights. But I think he'll be an important player for England for a long time, Bethel. But yeah, I think they've got it wrong with him this summer. I think it's been pretty poor.
I think with
This
all the
kind of leads
discourse,
us
I
to
think
our
with
next
all
one, don't we?
I think with all the discourse around Bethel, to have him in the squad all summer playing one time, I think you are right. It's not been well more than once. I think I can't remember the exact numbers, but it was stupid considering all the talk around him, and it wasn't talk as in like, oh, this man, this guy's here to just like make up the numbers. It was like, oh no, this guy's actually really good, and he needs the experience, and to just not use him or utilize him,
Well,
I think was
my
bad.
issue isn't the fact that England didn't play him; it's the fact that they didn't play him and then kept him with the squad. He should have been back with Warwickshire playing. Warwickshire should have been playing a game a week, and there'd be so much cricket for him to play. But anyway, never mind.
We were in the summer though. I mean, granted, famously in our group, whenever Ollie Pope doesn't pick up big numbers, I start to get a little bit disgruntled. So I'm not going to say that there's not like a bias on here, but I remember for a good chunk of the summer, we were all saying that Pope shouldn't be playing this next test, and then it should be Bethel, and then Pope would play the next test. He'd get 14, he'd get out, and then I'd go on a little bit of a run, and then the second innings would come around, he'd get 40, and then
starting in three is very, very difficult as well. Don't forget, it's extremely difficult because you can come in third ball of the game, can't you? I can't remember who was number 3 last time we were in Australia. I don't know if it was Davin Milan, but whoever was number 3 came in second ball of the game after
after that
well,
ball.
didn't he?
pretty sure,
Exactly.
pretty sure it came in first ball of the game as well in the first test.
Exactly.
Well, that kind of moves us on to, like, we're talking about how Brendan and Stokes have handled Bethel, but that takes us on to Bazball and Josh's favourite word. Is it a cult?
It's every Australian's favourite word. Before you carry on, nobody over here is that bothered about it. It's all them lot over there. The cult is how obsessed the Australians are with it.
Right, let's let Josh have his rant because we know he's going to. So go on, Josh, have your little rant about Bazball.
Well, it is a cult. I mean, you haven't won anything, but you carry on as though you reinvented cricket. Like it just doesn't make sense to me. It really doesn't. I like the brand of cricket that you play, that it's aggressive, but you weren't the first to do it. But there's almost like this feeling that you were, and that you're winning everything now. All you've done is win in England and on floodies in Pakistan. But I mean, you haven't beaten India or Australia, which are the 2 ones you want to beat, right?
That is right.
Well, you say this. Yeah. You say this. I knew this was coming, so I had a little bit of a gander at the stats. Okay. Since Brendan and Stokes have come in, so before they came in the previous 17 tests, our win rate. Can anyone guess our win rate in 17 tests before they come in?
Oh,
we won one test match.
6%. That was our win rate. Yeah. So since they've come in, we've played 35 matches. Our win rate is at 61% since. Like,
and it should be a lot higher. Like, it should be a lot higher. We've thrown games away.
At the start of this
2 test matches of the Ashes, the last test match against India.
Yeah.
It should be a lot higher.
This is the thing. We've lost out of those 35 matches, and I actually think it's a little bit more because I don't think it's stuck in the latest series against New Zealand. But we've won 22, lost 12, and drawn 1. We all know what the draw is to save Australia's Ashes. But 9 of those losses, 9 of those losses have been against Australia and India. Sorry. Realistically, if you're going to lose a bulk of your matches, and they're the best two teams apart from yourselves out there, is that really a bad thing?
Oh, look, it's definitely an improvement for you guys, for sure. I don't think anyone's doubting that. I think it's just, you know, the big three, and I think it's becoming the big four now with South Africa. What a team they are at the moment. But
Yep.
you know, I think the best teams in Test cricket are the ones you want to beat. You know, when it's funny when Australia dropped a Test match to the West Indies a couple of years ago, in Australia, and it was funny because the reaction to it was, oh, good for the West Indies. But if Australia doesn't win 4-0 or 5-0 against anyone else, it's unders. You know, that's not good enough. You know, we need to be better. Like when we won the series against India last year, 3-1 in Australia, the commentary around it was a little bit too close for comfort, boys. Like, you know, need to be better than that. So I think, you know, when you go up against the best teams, which are obviously for us, it's India and England, they're the series you want to win. And if you don't, then
Yep.
like anything less than a series win is not good enough. If it's different when you're away, I feel so. For you guys, if you guys draw this series and you don't take the earn home, the reaction in Australia will be that was fucking terrible. And for you guys, it should be celebrated, and rightly so, because it's bloody hard to win Test matches when you're away from home. You know, if you guys can take 2 Test matches, that's absolutely a great result for you guys, and that's not even, you know, me taking the piss. That's genuine. You guys win 2 Test matches on this tour. That's such a good result for you guys.
I don't
I think
disagree.
you're right. I think what needs to happen is it needs to all start to come to fruition now, doesn't it? Because Bazball in inverted commas or changing the way that England were playing cricket absolutely needed to change because of what was happening before.
Definitely.
We get bogged down so much trying to block or trying to, you know, knock it around for one, and it seems
Eke
that
out.
any half decent bowler will put all of our batting lineup under pressure, and we'd sit in and then we'd end up going under. So I think initially, or over the first 18 months, 2 years, it something did absolutely need to change, and I can see why they've gone with this, you know,
Yeah.
way of playing. But you've got to sort of bear the fruit of it in terms of
Definitely.
results. And I think with the Ashes over here last time and then the India Test, we should absolutely have won both of those series. You look back at Lords, where how many of them got out hooking? We were 180 for 1, I think, 180 for 2, and still ended up losing the Test match in the second innings. So it's got to come to fruition now, and I think ultimately this is where Bazball and Stokes and McCullum are going to be judged.
Yeah.
But that
Yeah.
it would have been a hell of a lot easier to have won at home and to have beaten India at home than it would do going away to Australia to then after be in a position to say that this is where it really
Yeah.
counts.
And I
Playing,
think
well, I said before, but playing cricket away from home so difficult.
yeah, it's so difficult, and that's why, man. It wouldn't surprise me if this series was a draw. You know, it wouldn't surprise me if the series ended up 2-2. And for you guys, unfortunately,
That's
that
the
means
most common score, isn't it?
yeah,
With
yeah, that's right.
Stokes and McCullum.
Desmond.
Yeah, so it wouldn't surprise me at all, and I kind of feel like, you know, if it'd be a shame for you guys in if that was the case, because obviously you get nothing out of it other than, you know, a drawn series. But if you're not taking the Ashes back with you, so I think, you know, I don't know if there is a cultural difference or not, and I'd probably ask you guys the question. In Australia, um, there's definitely a culture around our sport that if you're not going to win, you're not good enough. And there's no, I guess, room for I guess, you know, brave draws or brave losses. It's kind of win or fuck off in Australia. I don't know if it's the
What's the
same in the
word you're
UK.
looking for there, Josh? Or a moral victory? That's what you're. That's what you meant.
He's trying, isn't he?
No, I'm not, and I'm not going to take the piss out of that, because the reason I'm not is because, like, I feel like that comment's been taken out of hand a little bit, and
Absolutely.
yeah, and I think that is sort of like, um, it's been overused. I don't particularly like it. It's funny to take the piss out of you boys with it, but I don't actually believe that you guys believe in moral victories. But one thing I have noticed, and maybe just from more the general population in the UK, is the feeling towards the team, even though they're not winning against the big sides. It confuses me. Because if Australia was doing the same thing and the captain and the coach were on the telly saying, we're improving, we're doing this, I'm saying, well, you're not beating India, you're not beating, Australia. Like, we're not, fuck off. I
I
don't
think
know.
the thing is though, Josh, with that, like the main difference is you are like traditionally the like best in the world at some sports, like for example, rugby league, cricket. You are at time, well, most of the time, either the best or second best team in the world. Whereas England are like in football, I don't think we've been the best in the world for a very long time. Rugby, union and league, we're both, we're not the best in the world there. Cricket, we're up there, but we're not the best in the world. So I think we're more accepting of trust the process than maybe
Yeah,
maybe you guys are, just because we don't have a team like
You,
we don't have a nation of team sport massive world champions. I'm sure there's a lot of them that I don't really know
do
about,
you
and
know
that's my
what
own fault.
though?
But
I'm going to disagree a little bit, and I'm going to agree with a little bit of what you've all said. But you've got, in my mind, and like the start I said before, when we started this conversation was we won 6% of tests in the previous 17, and my mind goes back to, and you can, I get what you're saying, Josh, about the captain and the coach coming on TV and stuff like that, but and if we've got older people listening, and we should remember it, but in the 90s and 2000s, Manchester United winning everything, and when it went wrong, Sir Alex Ferguson rarely came on TV afterwards and gave the lads a bollocking. He did it in the background. He did it in there, but when it needed to happen. But he also made the Manchester United players and team have the confidence that they could go out. There's a phrase of Fergie time for a reason, that no matter how many times we were behind, we would try and find that winner. And I think that's what Brendan and Stokes have had to try and do, and get that back. Because if I'm honest, since they've come in, I think the feeling of the public is that we actually can like beat anyone. When
Yep.
obviously we've had the series draws against you and India, but the way we're playing, and like the biggest things that come to mind for me is faster scoring, like the scoring rates that we're doing it, um, the mental freedom that the players obviously seem to have, the player development that we've obviously got with the likes of Bethel, Brooks, Tong, even Mark Wood, Jofra Archer. They've come in around this time and flourished under that
Yeah.
leadership. But the
Mark Wood's
biggest
turned
thing,
into an all-rounder.
yeah, exactly, and but the biggest thing that I think it is when they first came in, they had to do something radical, which is why,
Oh, for
and it
sure.
is you as a lot of the time, going with this Bazball thing. Yeah, it was a joke at start from us English, but if you think of it now, there is a difference. They are starting to understand that cricket is a game of where it has to take patience sometimes. And let's be honest, we found that out the hard way in some of those tests. But it's something radical had to change. And Bazball, as it keeps being called, it's not that. It's just a philosophy that they want to and have changed the way English play cricket, and it's an evolution as well. And I think we are on the turn of that evolution. I truthfully think, and I hope I'm not speaking in a month and a half's time on this podcast and going, we fucked it. But I truthfully think we're coming with the right mindset, the right players, the right attitude to cause a problem.
Oh, definitely. I don't disagree with anything you just said. You guys have shown huge improvement. And then obviously, I think this team that you've picked is purpose built obviously come to Australia and win. I think it's been like you guys have said, it's been on the forefront of England's mind for a couple of years that this is the tour. And yeah, look, I think it's very similar to the '05 series. You guys were looking ahead to that '05 series for a long time, right? You were slowly building before that '05 series, and that's sort of when you started to hit your straps. But at the same time, like it's more of a just like I don't know, like I kind of feel like it's the way you talk about your players, and you hype them up to be better than what they actually are. It's a cult. I don't know, fellas. Like,
It's ingrained in you,
for
isn't it?
example, I was listening to a podcast the other day, and they asked Alistair Cook who the best all rounder of all time was, and he said Ben Stokes. Like,
No.
don't get me wrong, Ben Stokes is a terrific cricketer, and he'll go down as a great, but best all rounder of all time, please.
I heard somebody else say that. I don't think it was Cookie either. Michael Vaughan. No, Michael Vaughan said that Ben Stokes is the best cricketer in the world when he's on it. He said that last week.
When he's on it, oh, I mean,
Yeah.
It's hard to
when he's on.
disagree because when he's
Yeah,
on
when he's
it,
on, he's on. Yeah, true. It's funny, it's when he's in that form, like obviously, Headingley and at Lords, and the last time we played you guys, and he was just teeing off. I remember saying to one of my mates, I was like, can you even get this bloke out? Or is he just going to keep pumping you to the square leg into the square leg fence? Like, he's just, when he's on, he's incredible. But
I was asking similar questions about Steve Smith in 2019.
I remember it well. It haunted me. Nearly put me off cricket.
And then he had to come back with concussion to be able to get him out. And even then, he was caught in the deep.
That's what we're trying to do this time around.
It'll. I think it'll be a good series. But I think you boys are right. I think you guys have got the team that can ruffle a few feathers. Certainly with your pace attack. I think Wood's going to be terrifying on these wickets.
I think if we manage to get through the series without doing what we did in England, like with silly declarations and stuff like that, then I think we'll be we'll be okay. We seem to have matured a little bit.
As time goes on, that declaration looks even worse, doesn't it?
Oh yeah, looks terrible.
That's
looks
not
terrible.
Right too much.
Well, do you know what doesn't look terrible, ladies and gentlemen? We set out a task before we started this podcast to come up with a all-time Ashes 11 from players that we've seen. Now, whether people have stuck to that, I can't confirm or deny, but we will absolutely run through them. Now, I don't feel qualified to start on this because my Ashes team will be very different from everyone else's because I started watching cricket in the year of 2019. So I feel like we need to start with someone who's got a little bit more experience. So does anyone want to take the lead with all-time Ashes 11s? Anyone?
Well, should we do it in stages? Should we do like openers first?
Name your 11.
You've got to get it all down. Name your 11.
Okay.
Go on, Steve.
After that comment, you can start, Steve.
Okay. Do you know what? I there was quite a lot that I answered themselves because I've been watching cricket for a long time, but from what I remember, it's 2005 was the big one for me. That's where I honestly remember my cricket from that series. So all-time Ashes 11, and I've gone from since 2005. There's a few emotional picks, but I'll start with, and number one should be easy on everyone's list, and it's Alistair Cook. Simple as the chef. 2,493. Say that again.
Sir Alistair Cook, you said, didn't you?
Sir Alistair Cook, yes, I should probably full name him. 2,493 runs at 42 as an average with a highest. And do you know what? I could have looked at everyone, but the one that really nailed him in, even without those runs, was his 235 at Adelaide. That was just phenomenal. So we've talked about how hard it is overseas. So that should be everyone's first pick. This was a bit of an emotional pick to go with him, Matthew Hayden. I remember watching in 2005, and it actually wasn't his best series, but I just remember him just clobbering us about a bit, and I was like, he's a brute of a man. So yeah, Matthew Hayden opens with him. I think in the 06, 07 Ashes back at us, he got something like 400 runs, which is just stupid. Number 3, easy pick for me, Ricky Ponting. Well, we should talk about the stipulation that Josh gave us while we were doing this. So we weren't allowed to pick Steve Smith or Joe Root at 3 and 4. So that's why they're not in the squad. So Ricky Ponting is number 3. This is a bit of a off the keel one, but number 4 I've gone Ian Bell. I think some of his shots were sublime. Watching 2005, even in the 06 and 07 Ashes, he did well, and it was just the way he plays his shots. Number 5, this was a tough one for me, but I've gone Kevin Peterson. I think he started the revolution of into T20 style format and playing. So that's why I picked him. Number 6, my all-rounder, I've gone Andrew Flintoff. Just beyond good. And he just dragged the England team with his, even though he didn't actually get that many wickets, it was just the way he played was just unreal. Number 7, see, this is where I had a bit of a tough one because this is my wicket keeper. I actually went Brad Haddin over Gilly. And it was the stats that did it for me because Gilchrist, I just think, is phenomenal. But when you actually look at Brad Haddin's stats, they're unreal. So it was something like 1,300 runs, average of 41. He actually got a world record of 29 dismissals in an Ashes test. So it's the highest of any test, never mind Ashes dismissals. Yeah, so yeah, that's why I went Haddin. And then my bowlers, Mitchell Stark I've put in, and I think it's just because he's been playing for a long time and he's just destroyed us too many times. Stuart Broad, Mr. Ashes, I think he probably takes that mantle for England. And then finish with the deadly duo of Glenn McGrath and Shane Warne. I was an English fan through and through in 2005, but watching them two at work, and then Glenn McGrath and Shane back in the 2007, 6 and 7 series in Australia as well was just ridiculous. So yeah, that's my 11.
I like it. Does anyone have any thoughts?
Shane Warne cannot pass at number 11. Absolutely no chance. Shane Warne at number 8, please.
It should have been McGrath at 11
without
Stark
question. Glenn McGrath used to bat like he was holding a lollipop stick.
So the positions maybe up for talking, but I think I've picked an Ashes 11 that could down any team probably in history.
Was Steve Smith in there?
No, I took Josh's stipulation of you're not allowed to pick Steve Smith or Joe Root as a done and dusted, so I didn't even pick him at all.
I didn't take it as that stipulation. I had it as you couldn't have them both in, one at 3 and one at 4.
Ah, right. Okay.
I think that is what you meant by it.
I was close to picking him over Ian Bell, even though I took Josh's stipulation as I'm not allowed to pick him. But it was very, very hard to put Bell in and not Steve Smith.
I like the team. It's solid. A lot of similar picks to my team. I like it.
Is it very similar?
Very similar.
As it's similar.
Like it. Go on, Josh. Tell us.
So, opening the batting with Sir Alistair, I've actually gone with Chris Rogers, a guy who only played a handful of tests. He played 15 test matches against England, averaging 48 with the bat at the top of the order, including 400. So, I've gone with Chris Rogers. He's my smoky. Ponting at 3. He's got the most Ashes hundreds at 3. in the last 20 years. I think the next bloke's got only 2 that's batted at 3. So Ponting's a no-brainer. I've gone with Smith at 4. And just purely based off the numbers, I think, if you put Root there, it's also just as strong. But just based off the numbers, he's done it in Australia, he's done it in England. He averages 60 against England, like he's a freak. 5 was a really tough one, and I've only just changed it in the last 10 minutes. I was going to go with Kevin Peterson, but instead I'm going to go with Steve Waugh.
I've done exactly the same
Good
thing.
shout.
Yeah,
The exact
it's
same change.
He's 10 Ashes hundreds at 58. Pretty hard to go past. Number 6. There's only one reason I haven't picked an all-rounder. It's because I won't need one with this bowling lineup. And I've gone with Mike Hussey at 6. Again,
He
a
was
guy
my
that
notable
averages.
mention.
Yeah, another guy that's close to 60,
Yeah, big
with
numbers.
the bat at 6. And then same thing as Steve, I've gone with Brad Haddon as the keeper, who, as Steve touched on, record amount of dismissals in a series and the 5th most runs in a series by a wicketkeeper ever in the 13-14 Ashes. The bowlers, in no particular order, I'd probably go in this order. I've gone Warne, Johnson, Broad and McGrath. Like I said, really close to picking both KP and Stokesy. But like I said, I don't really need an all-rounder, but if I did, it'd be Stokes.
Stokes over Flintoff.
So Stokes is the greatest all-rounder of all time?
In Ashes cricket, maybe.
Possibly.
Maybe.
Just making sure we get that on record.
In Ashes cricket, he might be. You think they're probably all English, right? And you think of both of them, Stokes, Flintoff. There's, they're all pretty handy players.
We won't say no to Flintoff and both coming in if you want to bring them in for this series.
Well, I unfortunately I never watched both of them.
No, that's why I didn't pick him either.
Yeah, it was the stipulation was watched, wasn't it? I believe.
It was.
It was.
It's why I didn't pick Steve Waugh, because I didn't see much of him at all. But yeah, we seem like we're not far away from everyone, because I was looking at Johnson. It was either Johnson or Stark for me.
I just went Johnson.
Johnson had a fantastic series, didn't he, in Australia?
Yeah.
But it was just that
again,
one.
That's just, and it's the same with Brad Haddon. And that was the same series. The two of them were incredible, and that's just sort of based on feeling. Johnson was just, how many blokes did he retire in that series?
Trot. I think that was Bell's last series. I think
that was Bell's.
Yes, it was. It was Bell's and Trot. There was someone else, I think, as well.
Graham Swan.
Yeah, well,
Swan,
Swan packed up and went home halfway through a series. His was injury, wasn't it?
The only reason why I couldn't
land the ball,
pick Johnson though, was because that season he absolutely, and that was one of the reasons why I was looking at him. But there's a song that the English sing about Mitchell Johnson, and it was for the 2 series before that. So he can. There was just a little bit too inconsistent.
Some solid squads so far, and I think mine's looking pretty similar. So I mean, I'm happy to step in and give you the correct all-time Ashes 1191.
I was just about to say, you do yours, and then we'll finish.
Yeah, we'll tell Rich, because mine's not too similar. Mine's pretty much identical to everyone else's. So I'm going to start off with the all-time Ashes 11 of the opening batsman partnership are obviously Usman Khawaja and David Warner. What are they but nothing but consistent absolute dogs of war who are gonna get you through some hard times in the opening part of a test match. I just think, since 2019 they've been nothing but the bane in my side ever since we've started a test match. And yeah, I don't think it can be anyone else. Like we were talking about this before, off air, me and Steve. You no England players can be in there at all, just because of like the obviously Crawley and Duckett. Right now, maybe we'll have a shout in there in the next few years, but Usman and Khawaja and Warner have been there ever since I've started watching. 3, I've got Marnus No Run Labuschagne, absolute worldie of a player, and I just think I always look forward to watching him. He's gone through a little bit of a tough time recently outside of Ashes cricket, so like playing, I believe. But I'm looking forward to seeing him again. What a guy! 4, no run. 4 is absolutely inevitable, and it pains me to say, but it is Steve Smith. I remember when I first started watching cricket in 2019. Me and Richard, we would watch the series while we were working. I would start work, Steve Smith would be batting. I'd finish work, and Steve Smith would be batting, and it wouldn't have even looked like he's like nearly going out. He was an absolute nightmare for me. I still get nightmares about him, and it hurts. But Steve Smith is in the Ashes all-time 11. Shortly followed by Travis Head. I think we were looking at his numbers before since 2019. I think he's like Australia's second or third highest run scorer in the series since 2019. I believe. I can't remember because I've not got it in front of me, but he was up there. Finally, we're getting an Englishman at number 6, and as Josh has said, he is the greatest all-rounder in cricket history. It is Ben Stokes. Going in there, I think it kind of writes itself, doesn't it? He's the captain of England. He's been consistent he's been consistent for us in the Ashes, and obviously he's got that great moment of Headingley, and then panning to the camera of that man crying in the stands will never get old. Now we've got number 7, purely based off, in my memory, this man has played the Ashes more than the other person it could be, and it's a good toss up, and it's going to be a bit of a fan favourite, I hope. It is Johnny Bairstow at number 7. Because he's the guy, he's the love of my life, and also he is the one who led England to moral victory in 23. So we're all good there. Number 8, it's got to be Pat Cummins. Pretty much the same reasons as Stokes. Consistent, since 2019. I think he's also got the most Ashes wickets since 2019, I believe, or he's certainly first or second. Absolute guy. Can't argue with it. Stuart Broad, need to say any more at number 9. He's the absolute guy. He finished his career in an Ashes series with a wicket and a 6. It actually doesn't get better than that. If you can retire even with just one of those things, you're flying. He got both. Yes, absolutely. Number 10.
Would have been better if he retired with the urn.
Wait, what? Yeah, you're absolutely right. It would have been better if he retired with the urn. But not everything's perfect. We don't live in a simulation, so it's all right. But we can live with that. I can deal with that. Number 10, Stark. He's Stark. Need to say more. And number 11, Nathan Gary Lyon. That is the all-time Ashes 11. Everyone else you said is null and void.
I like 2019. Yeah, I like the entire team except for David Warner. You can keep him.
Yeah, you don't like David Warner, do you?
Yeah, mate, no, not really.
Yeah, well, the good thing is neither do I, and the reason why I don't like him is also the reason why he's on this list.
Yeah, he was a good cricketer. I'll give him that.
He was a good cricketer. Let's not.
It's funny when David Warner came into the Australian team. I thought he was too aggressive to play Test cricket, and now look at England.
Yeah, that's right.
That's been turned on its head.
Times absolutely changed. But has anyone got any thoughts there? Anyone else who they think would maybe sub in? Maybe a Hamid and Sibley?
Rory Byrne.
I think since 2019, I don't think you're picking any better players. It's
a shame, really, because we were doing this, and I realised midway through, it's like this is just the Australian national team for the past 6 years, with a few sprinkled.
No, do you know what I feel? I feel quite jealous of you that some of your Ashes memories. I go back and we've been 5-0 quite a lot, whereas you've not got those scars yet.
Isaac's introduction to the summer, Steve. was the
Yeah.
2019 Ashes, Ben Stokes at Headingley, and England winning the World Cup.
Yeah,
the one-day World
yeah.
Cup.
That's when I
That-
first started
that-
watching
that's
cricket,
how
was
he-
that World Cup, because we watched it together while we were working together.
Yeah, we did, and we look back to
What a way
06, 07, 5-0. 2011, I think it was 5-0. Like we're scarred over here, and you're
There's
there
been a
like
couple of
Headingley.
4-0s in there as well.
Oh yeah,
There's a couple of 4-0s.
The only time we've been absolutely snotted in the Ashes, like actually snotted to the point where it was maybe potentially earth-breaking, was it in Australia last, and I was asleep for half of that, so we're all right.
It doesn't count. It's COVID.
It was COVID, it doesn't count, you're right, it doesn't count.
Stuart Broad says it doesn't count, and that's all right by me.
That'll do, mate.
Right,
yeah,
my
Go
Ashes
for it,
11.
go for it.
I've actually tried to pick a team. I've tried to put a team together as opposed to the 11 best players, if that makes sense. So
I like it.
my opening pair, Matthew Hayden, Alistair Cook. Looking at averages, Hayden in the Ashes averaged 45, which is obviously a good average, but there's people averaging more. Justin Langer, Chris Rogers, for example. But trying to put a partnership together, Cook and Hayden, I think it'd be fantastic. Hayden takes the game forward, and Alistair Cook will bat all day. Ricky Ponting, first name on the team sheet at number 3. If there's one player, apart from Jack Callis, that I wish was English, it'd be Ricky Ponting, and he's scored a lot of runs and captained fantastically well. So he's my captain, actually, against England in my lifetime. Steve Smith at number 4. Number 4 is probably the most difficult position to choose, because you've got Root and Smith, 2 of the best players of our generation. But that 2019 series with Steve Smith, it looked impossible to get out. And I said to Isaac when we went out for a couple of beers a few months ago, Steve Smith's probably the best. In particular, in 2019, he's probably the best batter I've seen, particularly around that time. Number 5, exactly the same as Josh. Initially was Kevin Peterson, and then I switched it out for Steve Waugh about 5 minutes before Josh did. Ashes average of nigh on 59 runs, which is ridiculous.
Real.
Number 6, I have gone an all-rounder, Ben Stokes. Just for the Headingley 2019, I think, thinking about the actual team, if you could have Ben Stokes and Ricky Ponting sort of leading the team between them, even though Hunter would be the captain, I think you'd have a good balance there. Fantastic cricketer. My wicket keeper at number 7, Adam Gilchrist. Fantastic to watch. Definitely helps that he's a left-hander. Aesthetically, very pleasing, a bit like Kumar Sangakkara. But I remember Phil Tufnell talking about Adam Gilchrist maybe 3 or 4 years ago, and he used to talk about playing Australia, fantastic team. You get them 5 down, then you look up, and walking down from the changing rooms is Adam Gilchrist, and he put the fear of God in you. So he was Bazball before Bazball was even a thing. Number 8, the greatest cricketer of all time, Shane Warne. And I've also thought about the batting lineup as well. So Shane Warne, 195 Ashes wickets at 23. Played in 8 series, won 7 of them. Greatest cricketer of all time. Number 9, Pat Cummins. Goes without saying how good he is. Important runs, as you say. Maybe not as a captain, but fantastic bowler. Mr. Ashes himself at number 10, Stuart Broad. 8 for 15 at Trent Bridge. Also took 153 Ashes wickets, which is a frightening record. Seemed to come alive in the Ashes. A long career. Was a decent, you could argue, was an all rounder until he got hit in the head, and things seemed to change for him, and he'd sort of back off to square leg and hit whatever he could through cover. But Mr. Ashes, and then at number 11, Glenn McGrath. Line and length, top and off stump. It'd be interesting, I think, to see how England and Bazball would go against Glenn McGrath because he would just grind you down. He'd be bowling on a handkerchief or whatever you want to put it down as. He would grind you down line and line, top of off stump, and eventually he'd get you, which I think England had obviously big problems with. But like his average under 21, 157 wickets, absolutely frightening bowler. So he's my number 11. So it was Smith over Root for me at number 4. But I'd be pretty happy with that team.
That's a great team.
Great team.
Yeah.
Great team.
Do you know what's funny? When I was deep diving on stats, I was thinking about ways I could not pick Englishmen. And one of the guys that popped in my mind is when I was looking at all rounders, and I think is worth an honourable mention, is Mitch Marsh. Averages 47 with the bat against you blokes, and all of his 3 Test hundreds are all against England. So I think he's worth an honourable mention. He's got a terrific record against England. It's just a shame he's got a shit record against everyone else.
Yeah, Michael Vaughan's been championing him opening the batting for you.
Yeah,
in this series.
It would have been interesting if he
he's
did.
Been banging that drum for a while.
Yeah, I think he'd be good. He'd be good in situations where he's got the freedom to open the shoulders and go for it. But if you've got a tricky period just before stumps, I just don't trust him to get through it as an opener. You think of Mark Wood and Jofra Archer with the new ball, under lights at the Gabba, 20 minutes till stumps. I just can't see him getting through it.
I think the only issue there is his performance outside of against England. I think against England and 23 was probably a big tail in his career as coming in and not being scared and playing probably the way that we were playing at the time. But when he doesn't play England, it's a struggle.
Yeah, well, I remember saying to you guys at the time, that I think it was Old Trafford, even though that game ended up being a washout, that first innings from Mitch Marsh when our backs were against the wall, that's one of the best Test innings I've ever seen.
You saw it.
Still to this day. It was a runner ball 100, and he was hitting the ball to all parts when we were in big trouble.
Wood to all parts.
Yeah, we're in big trouble. And if it wasn't for him and then Marnus in the second innings, we probably don't win that series.
Yeah, and it's ifs and woods and could be, isn't it? But while you've mentioned you don't win the series, if the Manchester weather hadn't have done, let's go on to finishing the first part of this series with, as we are less than 5 hours away, I think roughly 6 hours away from the start of the 2025-26 Ashes. Let's go series predictions, boys. With a cheeky one that I'm just going to throw out at you now. Player of the series. So, prediction and player of the series. Who's first?
I'll go first.
Go on then.
2-2. Travis Head, player of the series.
Oh, okay. I'll go next. I've thought this for a while, and I'm gonna keep it, even though my nerves are starting to hit me belly. I'm going 3-2 England. I think we'll win Perth, and it'll just give us so much confidence. And I'm going to go Joe Root for player of the series. I think he's going to get a few hundreds, and it'll put the final nail in his one of the greatest of all time batters. Coffin lid. Yeah.
I think.
Go on, Josh.
Sorry.
No, go on, Josh.
I think it's going to be much the same as it was for Australia last year against India. I think it's going to be 3-1, and I'm going Marnus loose bus change as the player of the series.
I like it. I'm feeling a little bit optimistic, to be honest with you. I'm feeling a bit optimistic. I'm feeling it's going to be 3-1 England, And I've got a sneaky suspicion, and I've actually gone bold with this before, and I'm going to put it on record here now. I think Ben Duckett is going to be the player of the season, player of the series, and I also think he's going to get a minimum of 300s in this series. I said that in our group
You've
chat.
had this for the last few months.
I said
You?
that in June. By the way, I said that in June. So I'm going to stick with it now, and I'm feeling good with it.
Hornswoggle.
Oh,
Hornswoggle, as you call him.
I think we've got a side bet, haven't we, Josh?
What's the side bet?
It was that Ben Duckett had scored more centuries than Marnus and Sam Constas together. And Constas isn't playing, so we've got a match.
That's all right, that.
Yeah, that's a good matchup now.
Yeah, we've got a good match bet going on.
so just to let the listeners know, if for some reason England win this series, Josh is one of what
5-0.
will be many phone calls and laughing at him. He will be sending us all a copy of the Sydney Herald via first class post so that we can frame it. Just because there's so many people saying that we're not going to win it, and for good reason. But I'm positive, and I'm ready for it. I'm excited. The closer we're getting, I know we started this just over an hour ago, and I was excited then. But now we've talked about it. Now I'm looking at the time and going, "Oh, it's here, boys. It's here."
It's surreal.
I can't
It's
bloody
surreal.
wait, boys. I can't wait. I can't wait. It's going to be a terrific series, and I think there's going to be plenty of spice. And as long as you boys can remember that in your crease is in your crease, and out of your crease is out of your crease, I think it'll be a good series.
I don't think we'll make that mistake again, Josh.
I don't know.
I'm actually gutted
Josh,
Johnny's not on the tour. I'm absolutely gutted.
I'm not.
Yeah, that would have been absolute carnage. Josh, just quickly before we finish, what's the build up been like in Australia? Has it felt as big as other Ashes tours?
It felt bigger. It's probably the biggest build up I've seen in my lifetime. Probably the only one that felt a little bit different was that 2007 2008 series when you guys were coming out here after 05. Just because I think England's at the peak of their powers. I actually think I know there's a lot of negative chat around Australia at the moment, but I'm looking at that Australian lineup. Every single player that's been picked is in form, and I think that team is at the peak of their powers. Particularly, obviously, when Cummins and Hazelwood come back in, I think it's the strongest Australia's been for a long time. Particularly the batting. Marnus in form, Smith in form, Head in form. It's going to be obviously hard for you guys, but also hard for us. You've got Root and Brook and even Smith. I think Smith is the smoky in this series. I think he could be a real difference for you guys. He's what a player he is. So it's definitely been the biggest build up I've sort of seen. There's been a lot of chat about it, and I think it's going to be a really close series. And I think that's what Australians are anxious about is because we hate losing. So I think it's one of those things. This is going to be a really nerve-wracking series, and like India was last year, that was one of the best Test series I've ever watched last year. So I think this one will be much the same.
No, I like it. Does anyone have any final last words before we round out episode 1?
No, let's just talk in a week and see what we're rounding up from the first test.
I do have one final thought.
Go for it,
Isaac. Australia 5-0. Fuck off.
That's what the Ashes is about, ladies and gentlemen. And with that,
I didn't know Glenn McGrath had joined.
Yeah, he's been on the call the whole time. And with that, ladies and gentlemen, that is episode 1 of M6 to New South Wales for the 2025-2026 Ashes series. We've loved chatting. We hope that you enjoyed it as well. We look forward to hearing your feedback. And come on, England. So, goodbye from me and goodbye from everyone else.